Welcome to the Political Insider, and I hope that you are enjoying this channel, and I hope you're enjoying it so much that you have subscribed and rung the bell so that you can get our notifications as to when we have another very important episode dropping, because we cover the inside of South African politics here, the news, the stuff you need to know. And nothing has become more pressing than what we've seen over the last couple of days. This past week has just been crazy. For those that have kept in touch, the Madlanga Commission got very, very serious this week because we had Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, very serious guy, getting up there and producing what a lot of people had been complaining about in the first couple of days of the commission, saying that there's not a lot of proof being shown, especially when Mkhwanazi was on the stand, because he was just talking about stuff. Well, along comes General Khumalo, and he's literally showing the WhatsApps, the messages between the criminals, the criminal syndicates, the fixers, the politicians in some cases. And the whole commission starts getting very, very seriously. And suddenly, within a matter of a couple of days, three very dramatic things happen. For starters, the chief evidence leader, who's like the main prosecutor, Terry Mutao, suddenly withdraws from the commission, stating financial issues that need to be resolved and weren't resolved, so therefore he's leaving the commission. That's a pretty big deal. Then we had our former Minister of Police, Nathi Mthethwa, falling out of a 22nd story hotel room in Paris after General Mkhwanazi had named him as saying that's the most political interference he ever had came from Nathi Mthethwa when he was Minister of Police. And then suddenly, the same General Khumalo that we're speaking about suddenly is too sick to testify after being on the stand for 2 or 3 days and dropping absolute bombs. It seems like this commission is in trouble, not because it's not doing its work, but because perhaps it's doing its work too well. So here to unwrap the whole story and so that we can cover it, we've got our ultimate political insider, and that is Kutle Maseko. Kutle, welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
What did you think of that introduction? Quite long, right?
Yeah, quite long, but I think very factual, though, as to what we've seen over this past 2 weeks, Also, let's not forget that the Madlanga Commission is on hold for the next 11 days because we're waiting for a certain lady called Sisi Baloyi to come back from the JSC, right? You'd think these things work hand in hand, but nonetheless. Now, so many things are coming out of this Madlanga Commission, right? We've got, like you said, Nathi Mthethwa falling down 22 floors.
Let's first speak about that one, because like I was saying to you off air, I hope nobody goes into my Google history, because I Googled something today to say, what is the most popular ways of committing suicide? Because it's being alleged that he did this as suicide. It's being alleged, we're not seeing any proof for it. It's being alleged that it was suicide. Well, jumping out of tall buildings is not in the top 3, right? You got hanging, you got tablets, you got firearms.
Right.
Here's a guy who quite clearly would have had access to a rope, because there's probably a hardware store downstairs. He was, I must remind you, the ambassador to France, South Africa's ambassador to France. He's probably got access to tablets and firearms. Former police minister with bodyguards, I presume he's got access to that. Also, if he's going to commit suicide, this is a guy who's got a cushy job, probably lives in a very nice Parisian penthouse apartment. His wife used to run the National Empowerment Fund, which is a great slush fund for ANC cadres. Doesn't stack up to me.
Well, Mike, this is just shocking, especially after what Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi had to say that the most political interference came from Nathi Mthethwa himself, you know. So one can imagine that this Madlanga Commission, right, has put on so much pressure that, like you said, people are now ill all of a sudden. Others are complaining about money. Someone is jumping off the 22nd floor of a French apartment. Well, Mike, there's so many questions to be asked. Has anyone seen the body here in South Africa? Well, I don't recall. People are saying we've not seen the body. There are many questions. How was his phone in a park? And he was in a hotel? And then the wife says he sent a distressing message the night before. And then, okay, after sending a distressing message, you say that a person is lost. These two don't link, you know? So the whole story doesn't make sense. What we know is the man is dead, quite honestly. I saw someone saying that he could have, you know, gone what's incognito and living somewhere in Thailand. But
I don't think a big black guy living in Thailand can go to incognito for too long, but anyway.
Right. So it's interesting to see what's happening. I mean, on a more serious note, Mike, let's talk about Lieutenant General Khumalo, right? Where he's had 400 messages between Kat Matlala and Molefe, right? Reading these 400 messages, and then boom, the next day he's sick. All of a sudden, he's going to a doctor, physician, you know. Things just don't make sense.
Yeah. So, you know, okay, so we spoke about perhaps the death of Minister Mthethwa, which is so dodgy. You know, it's something like out of one of those movies that we go and watch. You're just sort of waiting for Tom Cruise to jump out or something like that. But, yeah, if we stay with a guy giving that kind of damning evidence, naming names, showing messages, right? The whole thing of I'm ill sounds, you know, so either he's ill, like really ill, or somebody has made him ill, or somebody has asked him to be sure that he becomes ill.
Well, Mike, I don't believe that he is ill, if I could be quite honest. And that is because the timing of this so-called illness, right? It comes after your 400 messages. And I think it's more of a thing of people putting pressure for you to be ill. You know, I mean, I know that many of us are visual believers. You know, we have to see something to believe it. But I can't foresee this. Could this really have happened? I mean, you've got Nathi Mthethwa jumping down 22nd floor in France. And then you've got one guy becoming ill and becoming so sick, you know. Because, I mean, when you say ill, we're basically saying he is sick beyond the point of talking. That, listen, guys, he's got to be in the hospital or at home. He can't come here. Not for the foreseeable future. Meaning that this illness just developed overnight. Like, Mike, things don't make sense. I mean, you would expect there to be a line. At least maybe you would cough a little bit the day before, you know. Something that builds up to this illness. But it's like me now. I mean, imagine hearing tomorrow Kutle is all of a sudden ill. I mean,
yeah. It's like that same illness you get the day before an exam, right? Yeah, it's cool. But the point is, and I know we're making light of it, the point is that there was some very serious stuff coming out, right? And it links with an interview that has just come out that I did with Jeff Wicks, who wrote Shadow State.
Right.
You know, it all goes back to Tembisa Hospital, right, where some of these syndicates literally stole billions of rand. And he was showing where the money ends up. He's showing the houses that these people have bought, the cars that they have bought, with the proceeds from this illicit money. He's showing the kidnappings. He's showing the murders. He's showing the drugs. And now he's ill. I mean, this just seems like somebody wants to put a stop to this commission.
Yeah, no, definitely, Mike. That is true. I would believe that someone wants to put a stop to this commission on a more serious note, you know. We're looking at the evidence that has come out of this. Every day is damning evidence, you know. If we thought the Zondo Commission was bad, this is surely worse. You know, Zondo Commission was just a couple of thugs that were just stealing, you know. but this involves drug cartels. I mean, we even heard allegations, right? I need to highlight for legal reasons, allegations of Ramaphosa's CR17 campaign possibly being funded by drug money, right? So now, if that is true, the presidency in and of itself means it is captured.
Yeah.
If that is true.
One would say that if you run a drug cartel that's going to pay, you give money to one candidate in a race, it's going to give money to the other candidate as well, just in case. I mean, that's not hard to work out, especially when one sees the sums of money that these guys were making. And they were literally making hundreds of millions of rand out of one hospital. It's a very easy modus operandi to go and spread. We're already seeing allegations of this happening in the Northwest, and I'm sure it's coming to a town near you. But there is seriously something going on. What also surprises me, and I don't know where you stand on this, is the silence in Parliament.
Yes.
Especially the opposition parties. Yeah, the Democratic Alliance seems to have lost their voice. Ian Cameron, I thought, was brave. Turns out maybe not so much. But nobody is making a noise about this commission. What do you think of that?
Well, Mike, I think it's a bit tricky here because, you know, this will go back and to the forces, right? The forces are out to get each other. That is my assumption from this whole story, is the forces are out to get each other. It is also difficult, I guess, for Parliament to make or to speak about a commission that is still running. You know, there's been no conclusion because remember, currently these are still allegations. There's nothing that has been factually proven in some cases in a court, right? So these are still allegations. So I wouldn't expect, you know, too much chit chat, especially I think there's obviously this political mindset where it's like, you know, perhaps let us not involve ourselves where we don't belong currently. I mean, if we look at, who's it? Fadil Adams, right? Fadil Adams and Mkhwanazi clearly have got something. There's some previous, and it's shocking because remember, Fadil Adams only became an MP last year. But before that, Fadil Adams led a minority party in the city of Cape Town, where he was just a councillor. Now, there are so many allegations against this guy. You know, Fadil Adams is starting to look like a very sort of tainted and corrupt leader. He's starting to come across as that. And it's just to show that if a guy who was a councillor literally just last year, right, before last year's general elections, is so tainted in so many stories, right? You ask yourself, what about the guys higher up? I mean, if a guy that honestly led a party, by my recollection, does not even have 4 seats or 5 seats in the city of Cape Town, can be so corrupt, or allegations are that he's meddling in evidence and all sorts, can be involved in such. What about the guys higher up? It shows the state that we live in, right? But also, we can't forget, I mean, this commission now, this commission in and of itself needs so many people to appear before it. Many people have still not come to appear before the commission that should be coming to appear before the commission. We need to speak about our president, Cyril Ramaphosa. You know, the thing is, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he spoke to us the time he was late for that address after Mkhwanazi's speech, he came across as someone who didn't know what was going on. You know, it's sort of like, we'll see what is happening here. But there's clear evidence, right? Or allegations with evidence and everything, that our president does factor in this whole story. You know, I'm not sure if you saw the video, is it of Brown Molefe walking through the capital? Brown Mokgotsi, yes, Brown Mokgotsi, walking through the capital in Pretoria, you know, with gunmen. That this is the literal state that we live in.
Yeah, so there's a lot more to come. But there was hope and talk about this ad hoc committee that was being set up by Parliament, which seems to have stalled. There seem to be some people there that are trying to make sure that it doesn't go ahead. And there we've got Soviet Lechanyane from the ANC, who's actually meant to head the commission, who seems to have tied the thing up with sort of real nonsense issues that need to be resolved. And the other one that's stalling everything seems to be Julius Malema, that can agree with nothing.
Well,
and keeps this thing going.
Look, Mike, it is Soviet Lechaniane, it is Julius Malema, it is Terry Mutao. For me, I think you forgot to mention Terry.
You're the evidence leader.
Yes, the evidence leader, the advocate. Terry, okay, just to start with Terry. Terry raised, I can't believe it. He says he is withdrawing because of financial issues, right? He links this back to the Zondo Commission. He says during the Zondo Commission, there were 2 months where people didn't get paid, right? 2 months. From my recollection, this Madlanga Commission has not even sat for a month. It's only going on a break right now. And then in 1 week of all this madness, here he goes, he withdraws, right? He says, no, I'm not going to be part of this for financial issues. Sounds dodgy. It really does. But okay, let's park that. Let's look at others, Soviet Lichanyane, Mike, I don't know what I was expecting. The ANC, it's like you cannot, a judge cannot preside over their own sentencing. Like, how is the ANC, and we're all mum about it, to be quite honest, how do we allow for the communists, this fanatic communist from the ANC, to preside over, well, not to preside, but rather to be so, involved in this Madlanga Commission? And then you've got Julius Malema, who's beating around the whole bush, but we also saw him yesterday at his
we'll
court.
Talk about it now,
yeah. His court
but
case.
Let's just finish off with the ad hoc committee in Parliament, because he has been the guy there saying, we can't do this, we must start all over again, we must start all over again. He arrives late. He's definitely running interference.
No, he is, Mike. That's why I'm saying that there is a link between all these guys, clearly. And it goes to show how deeply the state has been captured, actually. And for a second, I think you mentioned it at your breakfast, Mike, where you said one thing about Zuma and his cabal with the Zondo Commission was, a thief understands one thing. In order for me to steal, there must be something that I can take from you. And the difference with these guys, including Malema, the VPS, and all these stories, is they have gone beyond just thieving. This is really cartels. Don't forget that even, I think, was it General Fani Masemola or General Kumalo, one of the two, said that the big 5 drug cartels are involved politically.
Yeah, it's pretty worrying, and it's going to be interesting. And as Kutle said, that Madlanga Commission is on hold for, nearly 2 weeks with all of this stuff, just as it's getting to the point where it's starting to show itself and just how deep these tentacles grow. But, so we'll wait and we'll keep you updated as to any developments that happen. But this is really, really worrying that you can have these 3 major incidents happen at this point in the commission. It's very, very dangerous. We haven't heard Madlanga even speaking about it. And as I said, Parliament has been silent. So let's see what happens. But you started talking about Julius Malema. We're just going to close with this because obviously there's going to be some room to go. And that is Julius Malema found guilty of this firearm crime of firing the gun at one of his rallies. This goes back to 2018, I think.
Yes, in Mdantsane.
I never realized just how serious this charge is. But according to the law, it's bad enough. There's Firearms Control Acts, but firing a machine gun in a suburban area carries an immediate 15-year sentence. What do you make of this?
Well, Mike, I think some people are happy, and I think majority of the country could be happy about this, right? But the interesting thing is, well, on the lighter note, before the serious part, is Malema's going to have the worst Christmas ever. I mean, his sentencing only comes in January, so you can imagine how long that is. But to be quite honest, is the dodgy part is how his former bodyguard, Snyman, is not, he's not going to get any sentencing, right? It's only going to be Malema that will really face the music here. But also, it's been a long time coming, Mike. The evidence has been there for 8 years. Let's be quite honest. I mean, it's been there for 8 years. If it was anyone else, right, who's not a politician, perhaps, they would have been charged by now. Long time ago, within a year, you would have been charged. It was clear as daylight.
Yeah, there's lots of videos.
I mean, really. And the thing is, Malema has had a tendency of getting away with so many things in court, you know, from kill the boer to all sorts to this now. And it was high time that he does pay. But we also saw the Land Party coming out randomly. I only found out about them yesterday. The Land Party defending Malema. They even went to the news. And then they took out files about the judge. I'm not sure if you saw that video, where they said that the judge is part of Solidarity. They said the judge is part of AfriForum, and she went to some school, some Afrikaans school in Pretoria, right? Now, obviously, the narrative here is Malema and this Land Party, wherever they emerged from, are going to make this a whole racial conversation. It's no longer going to be about the fact that you fired a rifle at a rally. For them, it won't be. And, you know, Mike, it goes back to this famous manipulation tactic, the abbreviation is DAVO, you know, where people just, who are people in the wrong, sort of look for one thing that could work against you, and they hammer on that. So you take this Land Party now, speaking about AfriForum and all sorts, and are going to portray this judge as a racist. Malema has also appealed to this, but the bottom line is Malema must face the music. Even if the judge was black, for all I cared. The video footage is there. You can hear the gun. You literally hear the bullets coming out. You know, there's no way of trying to maneuver, and I don't know, there's absolutely, you can't call it a BB gun. Doesn't sound the same, you know. So there's absolutely no way. The bottom line is Malema can face up to 15 years, right, in prison for this. Up to 15 years in prison for this. But the big question is, once the sentencing does come, right, and once he's officially convicted, he withdraws from Parliament. He can no longer be a member of Parliament, right? Because remember, to be a member of Parliament, and if you have a criminal record, it has to be 5 years and beyond for it to be excused, right? So that's going to be an interesting thing to look at, that if really he does get, you know, a sentencing does come, as long as it comes, we saw it with Zuma, he's out of Parliament.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It will definitely have repercussions and play on, and I think it's got a long way to run. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that will rush to his defense. Yeah, and we know that the previous prosecutor withdrew from the case because the white woman, said her reputation will get trashed if she stood. The judge sat through it all and delivered a very long-winded version. But he's going to go and he's going to take it to the higher courts. And I feel that at some point it'll probably get thrown out on some technicality. But let's wait and see. It's a very interesting one. We've got to keep watching this Madlanga Commission. Kutle, thank you so much for joining us. To everybody that watched us today on the Political Insider, come on, subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you again with some more analysis on the Political Insider. Thank you for joining us.